Hi, I'm Dean Foley, and you're listening to the Indigipreneur podcast, a show about Indigenous entrepreneurs, innovators, and leaders, and their inspiring stories.
The thing that keeps pushing me is, I wanted to prove my haters wrong.
Cecelia Wright is a leading multicultural trainer, communicator, and champion for Indigenous education and inclusion. Originally from Thursday Island in the Torres Strait, Cecelia has extensive experience embedding cultural practices and exclusive practices in the early childhood sector. Hey Cecelia, you're doing amazing work with cultural inclusions. So what are your plans for the future?
I guess in the short term, I really hope to build some new resources. I've been talking to quite a few artists back up in the islands about, what else do they want to contribute and design and develop so I can share with the rest of the teachers and educators around Australia. I guess for me, it's really been about what else I can do without stretching myself too far. So I'd love to do some more workshops this year and conferences to reach more teachers. I had a little look at the last 2 years. I've actually reached over 1,500 children around Australia, going out and actually being with them and teaching them language, teaching them what it's like in the Torres Straits and what people and children are like, and dressing them up and I do cooking with them and singing with them so that they get inspired then to want to do more on their own, on their own little journey. So ideally this year I'd love to reach some more children, teachers and educators, and develop some more resources that could be used anywhere, that could be used, tablecloths and artwork and puzzles and, instruments that could be used anywhere, anytime. I'm very lucky this year. We've got a couple of schools already that are setting up their island dance trips. So they've asked me for resources from the islands, and instruments so they can set them up, so they can learn island dancing down in Sydney and Toowoomba and a few other places.
So your parents own a shop up in Torres Strait. Is that what inspired you to go into business?
That's a pretty funny question. I guess, when you're growing up in a big family and small island, everybody has to help out and everyone has to do their bit. So, as soon as we could see over the counter, I say we all had to work at the shop. And everyone in the islands actually knows my family pretty well because Dad actually was an electrician, one of the first electricians in TI. So he actually went around installing power to many of the houses in community back in the day. And I guess I saw growing up all my life that, how multicultural families were and how when you embrace that, that's a good way to be, that everybody feels included, everyone feels accepted. And that's really, I guess, what's inspired me the most to keep going as well, that cultures aren't going to go away. Our families are here and Australia's just having the most wonderful, community approach at this stage. I think we're really in a good opportunity to embrace other cultures, to choose to be accepting and to welcome families, from different places and times. And I always come back to, it takes a village to raise a child. And I always think of that because, it took me a village to develop my business. It took me a village to be who I am today with all of that community and family and extended family around me. And when I talk about it takes a village to raise a child to teachers, I say to them that they are the village. We are one part of that child's life. And if we work together and share the information and, look at it from a perspective where we can all help that child to grow into a holistic human being, then, why not? I think that's how we should all be looking at raising children, and working with families.
Awesome. And what entrepreneurial and business skills did you learn working in the store?
On TI, growing up in my family's store, I think we learnt really about taking action, not sitting back, was a really big thing for us, that there was always something happening in community. There were always different people surrounding us. So we had to always, be aware of who was there, use the right language as well when people came into our store, being respectful as well. I remember my dad listening to him speak many different languages as different people came in and talked to him and, wanted to yarn with him. And I think it doesn't matter where you come from too, that, it's always about acceptance and belonging. And that's actually one of our pedagogies in early childhood, is being, belonging and becoming. And I think it's really about, accepting who you are, accepting where you are, and valuing, where you want to go to as well.
So when did you decide to do your own thing and start your own business?
It's a good question. I think as I've travelled for the last 20 years around Australia, I've worked for many different organisations, and, I have done quite a bit of study with registered training organisations, with TAFE, and I've even taught for them as well. But I think the biggest learning from all of that is that, there are set standards, there are set KPIs that you have to reach, and especially for a woman too in a workplace, that there's so much extra responsibility and extra things you have to do to be seen as successful in the workplace. And for me, I realised that, I want to be flexible. I want to be able to do something that works for me, that makes me feel good as well about giving back to community and teaching and training in that way. And I wanted the flexibility to have a family and support my family as well. That's really what, life and my business is all about, is about family. It's top of my priority, and from community, that's number one and TI in the islands. So really it was about, what can I do to suit my family, to suit my community, and in the workplace in particular, some places are very, very strict around that 9 to 5 you're in the office, and this is priority. So I wanted to do something else that I didn't have to abide to those guidelines. Yeah.
That's awesome. And can you offer any advice to the Indigipreneurs who are listening?
Yeah, I guess for me, a lot of it has been about, taking the positive look on everything. Everywhere I've moved, every job, every time I've gone for an interview, when I find out I'm losing a contract, those types of things, that really I try to think that you have to be open to possibilities. You have to try something before you say that's not going to work, or, that's not going to do it for me. I think when I went back to TI recently, I worked with a lot of women and young families with the family support program. And what I saw there is the willingness to say, no, I want to do better. No, this isn't the pathway for me, that I can change at any time. And I think that that's really been very, very powerful for me, that we need to really try something new, to accept a challenge instead of saying no, or instead of going back to old ways, that we can all really make a big difference in our lives. And, do it for yourself, I think, is really big as well, because at the end of the day, you are doing it for yourself, and you have to believe in yourself as well. I guess don't give up as well is another big one, but I always think about, if something is not going well, then how can I adapt to make it work? How can I adapt to make it better for me? And that's really been a big part of my business as well, is that you have to adapt to change. You have to work out what's another opportunity coming up that I think I could, benefit from, or support, or help build and grow. And I love all of that. I love a new challenge, and I love finding out other opportunities where I can support and grow and learn from.
Wow, that's amazing. Sounds like you've got a really awesome entrepreneurial mindset. Where do you think you got it from?
That's actually a really good question. I've done a lot of personal development over the few years, actually. And a lot of it was working with mentors down at the Gold Coast, down at the Hunter Valley. But I think it's really about when you start thinking differently, It's about being with people that think differently as well. And one of these retreats in particular was about, being high on life, not needing cigarettes, not needing alcohol, not even needing fatty foods, and challenging yourself to think differently. And in those moments, being with people that think like that, the world is your oyster. You're open to any possibility you want to develop, to discover, to create a better world and a better life for you. Yeah, we did quite a few different workshops. One where we even went without food for about 16 hours because they were trying to show us that you actually don't need food to survive, that the need for, fatty food or the need for chocolate or things like that is actually just conditioning, and we need to look past all of those things to think about the bigger picture and what else we can do. Yeah.
Nice. And did you have a range of mentors? Were they in any specific industry?
That's a good question too. We had one in particular mentor, and it was funny because I actually I didn't sign up to go to this particular course. My husband signed me up, and it was actually about financial planning. And I think, like many people, you kind of cringe at the thought of having to do something mathematical or finances. But we went along, and do you know what? It was so much more than I was expecting it to be. That, when you're going to create change in your life, it's really about reflecting on what you've done so far and where you want to go. And that's the whole first part of that conference. And I just wasn't expecting it because there was many different mentors there to support people. There were people from business backgrounds. There was people from shares and marketing. And, they put together this great team to support you to build your business. But the whole first part of it was about you and what you want in your life. And, really that was just a self-reflection. And I think it's good to do that once a year at least, to have a bit of a self-reflection of who you are, what you want, and where you want to go. Yeah, and that really inspired me the most. And, it made me cry. It made me, want to walk away from it because I was scared about it all. But when you really take a good look at yourself and what you want to do, I think you have to go with it. Go with the flow. Don't say no and don't be scared.
So starting your business, was it a massive success to begin with, or what have been the challenges along the way?
Many, many challenges. I think starting a business is always a big step, but our attitude towards it was always about, what can I start off with? What's a small task I can do to build my business while working or, while having a family? How can I do it on the side and slowly build up my reputation, slowly, build up and discover what the need is in industry. So really starting my business has been a long journey for me and many ups and downs, but I think it's a challenge that many people should try. You don't know until you try. Yeah.
And getting those runs on the board and validation is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, when you surround yourself by the right people as well, and you talk to the people that you work for and you talk to the clients that you have and really discover what they need and what they want from you, you can achieve anything, and that's the most wonderful thing, is hearing the feedback and talking to people about what they've done on their journey, on their cultural inclusion journey. That's really been powerful for me, and that really pushes me further to do more, to reach more families, reach more teachers and children. Mm.
Do you think that's been a challenge for, some of the aspiring entrepreneurs that you meet, that they don't, go out there and get that validation around their idea? They just kind of want to raise heaps of money and be super successful?
Yeah, be a millionaire, hey? I think one of the biggest challenges for everybody is around that money, because it does come up quite a lot around, where do I get funding from? What do I sell to get the money to do it? And I always reflect back on a conversation I had with one of my mentors too around, do I get a business loan? What am I doing? And he said to me, if you can afford not to, don't do it. You don't want to owe somebody else money, including the bank. And so I think it's really been about what can I do to create that cash flow that you can then use to put back into the business, to build again and again and again. And that's really how I've done my whole business. I haven't borrowed any money. I've really looked at how much I'm worth as well, talking about making up contracts and doing workshops and all those types of things, guest speaking, that really, what am I worth? And that was a bit of an exercise as well. But, it's about as well, feeling good about yourself too. That what am I worth? What do I give to this? And what can I give as well? And I think especially for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander entrepreneurs that, you have so much to give. It's just about working out exactly what it is. How do I deliver that? How do I meet the niche in the business area and give it a go? I think you don't know till you try. And every time you fall down, you get back up and try again.
Totally agree. I feel like a lot of people I know question if they're worthy for the goal, but I think the real question is their goal worthy for them? So when you were just starting out, did you undervalue your worth?
Knowing your worth, hey? I've actually been talking to another beautiful Aboriginal consultant down here as well, helping her with this as well, because it really made me open my eyes to how precious skills can be, how valuable they are. But again, it's about that self-reflection. So when I first started thinking about consulting and working out how much I was worth, I started looking at the organisations already established in Brisbane, how much they charge and what they offer as well, and how sustainable their advice or workshops were. How did they actually support your clients to use the information they've learned to develop themselves in the future and pass that on? I always look at business as not a one-off visit, as a one-off workshop, that families, the actual clients should be looking at it as a journey. Everyone's on a learning journey, everyone's on a cultural journey. And I really feel that it's all about what can you offer and how can you support that client to go further. So for me, I actually did charge quite cheap workshops, charged myself quite cheaply in the beginning. And the more I started to do, I started to realise, okay, I'm not getting, the time over money equation right. And I started looking at what else I could do for these teachers in particular, children in particular, that they would be supported to do this journey on their own. So in my workshops in particular, I actually factor in resources for them, educational resources. So not only do they learn about them, get to use them and understand where they came from, but they can then feel comfortable to use that every day in their practices, in their workshops, in their teaching. Yeah, so that's really how I developed my pricing, is having these resources to go along with them.
And what's been your motivation, when you get knocked down? How do you get back up and keep going?
That's another good question. I think for me, it's really about what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to work 9 to 5 every day for somebody else reaching their goals? Do I want to be that person every day till I'm 70? Or do I want to do something else and reach a different outcome, for me, for my future, for my children's future, and for my community? And that really is what drives me the most. Even in the quiet periods when I don't have any work on, I'll have someone reach out to me and say, hey, why don't you come out and talk to us? Or I'll be inspired by going out and even in the local shopping centre, when I see beautiful artwork or prints or puzzles or things like that, I think, where's the Torres Strait stuff? And that's really what I'm here to do. I want to bring all of that, develop all of that, and get it out there to the rest of the world. We have beautiful artists, we have beautiful creators, we have all of that talent and skill in community, and just because we're remote, shouldn't be a barrier for us. Yeah, and I think this is our opportunity. We have all these wonderful networks down here. We have, all of the, different businesses, different social media networks, that this is our opportunity to share all of that. And that's really what it's about. I think, with any business, it's about sharing what you have, sharing your skills and sharing your ideas with other people.
So you think that Torres Strait Islander people are sometimes left out?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the Torres Strait Islander community in particular, in the islands, I've found as I move around Australia that we are left out and we are forgotten about because we are a smaller population and because we are so remote. And I learn more and more every day around community and culture and language and who are the best contacts for those types of things in community. And what I see as I travel around too is that people are concerned about what they should say or do or not do, especially in our industry in community services. And I always reflect on them and contact them and say that, really working with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families, Aboriginal families, it's really about yarning to them, having a talk. Who's the best contact I need to talk to? How can I do this in the most appropriate way? And what are the needs of that family or of that community that I can do, with my business?
Obviously, you give in a lot of value. Do you think you should be charging more for the work you do?
I should. That's a really good question. No. I actually still feel that because, especially my work in particular in early childhood services, that this information, this type of training and workshops is so valuable that I want to reach as many teachers as I can. I want to reach as many children as I can. So I actually don't overprice myself at this stage because I want to reach as many as possible. I want to be affordable for them. And I want them to be inspired then that when they want more information, they want more resources, that they'll understand the value and then come back to me again. Yeah.
And have you got any plans that you can share about how you plan to reach more people?
So this year, I've actually been looking interstate at different early childhood conferences, at different family support conferences, where I can go along and add value to the conferences, where I can have my educational stall as well, because I believe it's business in the community services is about face-to-face meeting people, about talking to them, and I love that type of thing when I get to go to a conference and I have people that want to share their story about the Torres Straits, or they want to share their story about where their family's from. I think that's really important in building your business as well, that it's about meeting people and talking to them and letting them tell their story. Yeah, that's my favourite bit. I have this one teacher who I meet at conferences once a year who forgets that she's come and told me her story. And every year she comes and tells me how she had these two students stay with her on a school trip down here. And she said, I will cook you anything you want. You tell me what I want you to cook. I'll cook any dish. They asked for turtle and dugong. Yeah, so she tells me every year that, she had no idea that we even ate turtles and dugongs, and how shocked she was that these boys had asked for it.
Wow. And you mentioned conferences. When you were just starting out, were there one or two early wins where you're like, this could be a successful business that you can talk about?
When I first did a conference, I actually went halves in setting up a stall, an information stall with this other company that I was not 100% sure of myself as well and where this would go. So for 2 years in a row, we actually went halves in this information store, and we both bought a table each, a chair each, and set ourselves up. And we did 2 years of that. And what we found is that educators and teachers wanted to talk to both of us, wanted to be involved in both of us. So we had so many teachers coming along and, really engaged in our conversation. And we realized that we needed to separate ourselves, that both our businesses were growing quite fast. And it was a really great learning for me, to be there and see her networks, and then to be there and build my own networks through that as well. And, I guess that's another tip on businesses. It's always a great opportunity, if possible, to share ideas, networks, and work together, alongside another business. She promoted me, I promoted her. I've even done some consulting for her in her workshops. And we've always had a really great connection, the two of us. So that's still current today. I still do workshops for them, if they have a contract around, learning about the land we walk on for teachers and educators and inclusion.
Wow, do you still go halves and conferences with booths?
No, I can afford my own booth now. But it's wonderful to connect with her every year and have a talk about, where different priorities are for teachers and the education system in Queensland in particular. I do love working interstate, so I've been doing some work for her interstate as well. I've been flying down to Melbourne and doing some workshops down there.
Nice. And have you used that strategy to continue to grow your business with partners?
Yeah, I think a lot of businesses around partnering as well and finding out who has the contacts, and that's something I always talk about with other people who are setting up businesses or consultancies, is, getting your name out there is really around who is doing what, in what area, what type of clients are they reaching, and what's their needs, and what's your niche as well, so you can add value to that organization, or you can add value to that, that partner or that network. And I love to promote that with other small business owners as well, that, if I can pass them a contact or, mention their details to another company, I will. And I'm very lucky that I talk about the Torres Strait Island culture in particular. So there's not many consultants in our field, in our community services, that are doing that in Brisbane. So I'm very lucky I can add value to that. And I have all the wonderful contacts back home. So I have lots of artists who can, contribute to that and give me their artwork or their instruments to sell that nobody else has got contacts for.
So your competition, are they non-Indigenous businesses, or are they just businesses that maybe just don't have those community values?
Probably both of those. They're non-Indigenous businesses. They are purchasing from overseas suppliers, and
So China?
Yeah, China. Some of them have got local artists, local Indigenous artists from Brisbane, developing beautiful artwork, but what I see is that the artists aren't getting what they deserve, and that when our products are sent overseas, they're made in places that, for example, Indian women's prisons. It's wonderful that inmates can create an income for themselves and have something to do, but if I could give that money back to one person on Bardu Island, that's, I think, so much more valuable than having to outsource like that. And I've got coconuts mats coming in from Saibai and beautiful artwork from Darnley Island. That's really, that's what I'm all about, because in those communities in particular, there's only so many jobs you can apply for. There's only so many people that are eligible to work in community. So communities heavily, relying on those Centrelink handouts. So why not try to promote and build something else for them, that they can get a ongoing payment from me selling my resources, that they can get ongoing payments when they develop new instruments or, artwork that they want me to turn into puzzles and books. Have a beautiful artist and author on Horn Island who's written books about child safety. She's written a book about making instruments. She's, photographed her journey, and, we've put all that together into a book, and And she wants to come down to one of the conferences this year, to actually see how it works and what goes on in these at the big conferences down here for early childhood, and that's about building her profile as well.
Yeah, so obviously in remote and rural Aboriginal communities and Torres Strait Islander communities, there's not as many opportunities. Do you think government programs like Work for the Door are actually helping create jobs?
We are very lucky on TI because Thursday Island's one of the largest commercial hubs in the community, in the Torres Straits, that we do have different opportunities that come up. So we have had IBA come up. We have had different training organisations come up. But again, these types of business models are, fly in, fly out, essentially. So they really aren't sustainable. They're not supportive for the long journey, for businesses. And because the community is so remote that, Telstra can drop out at any second. The water at the moment is brown on TI, and it's been brown for a year. So, there are so many issues with just accessing clean water and cheap fruit and vegetables. So, it's really a big struggle for some people to get out of bed each day, work out if they're going to go to work out if they're going to look for work, or, even to get up and get the children ready for school. Have they got food? Have they got clothes? Have they got everything they need to go to school every day? So for me, when I go back home and think about, what I can do and how we can support other business people in the islands, in particular in remote communities, it's really about getting all of those fundamentals right first, and promoting and building businesses. It's really in the communities about finding out how I can support, sustainable outcomes, how I can support a group of people or one person, to better themselves so they can then learn to better someone else, to help someone else out. And very lucky this week I've been learning more about a company up there of local guys, my brother included, that are looking at local businesses and how they can support them to build, to grow, to apply for more tenders where organisations are working together, working for community and from community as well. Yeah, there's TS Connect with Patrick Mao, one of the well-known producers, music artists up on TI. And, I think that's really what it's about, is if you want something sustainable, if you want to support community and make it better, then, you've got to come from within, hey?
So it just all came about because of these organisations that are supposed to help, weren't really helping?
Yeah, I think we need a change in how businesses work, in how KPIs are met, in how many organisations in remote communities are funded, that there is not enough flexibility to the community, to the community's needs, to the events that pop up, and not only that, but to supporting the workers, to do what they have to do every day, and their families and, their children, those types of things. I guess every time I go back to TI, I see that again and again, and it really breaks my heart to think that, it's 2018 and it's still the same people in power, the same organisations that are doing the exact same thing they've always done, and no one's learning anything different, no one's trying anything different, and everyone's in the same place they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, in the same jobs, in the same, level of, roles, those types of things. Yeah, so I think it is time for change. It's definitely time for entrepreneurs to shine, and it's time to think differently as well about what we want to do in the future and why.
So true. Obviously, you're doing a lot of amazing work with cultural inclusions. So what are your plans for the future?
Yeah, I guess my long-term goal is about being able to do this full-time and take my family with me, as I travel and roll this out worldwide actually as well. So the rest of the world can actually see what Torres Strait Island culture looks like and have all of the dolls and the music and the instruments for them to teach their children all around the world about the Indigenous people of Australia. And I also hope to do the exact same thing for many other cultures in Australia. I actually want to do the same thing for Aboriginal clan groups of Australia, for the Chinese, for the many different cultures that we have in Australia. Ideally, I hope to do this on multicultural levels and be able to travel and do that all over the world.
That'd be super cool. And just one thing before I forget. So you went to IBA. Did you ever think about trying to get a loan through IBA, or were you always thinking about trying to bootstrap things?
Yeah, it was interesting doing my own personal development and doing my own business workshops to doing the IBA workshop. And it really opened my eyes to what I could do and how far my business could go if I had applied for them, to them for a loan. And it really made me think about doing it on my own. How can I do it on my own without having to owe someone money? It's the same as if borrowing money from family. That how else can I do this on my own for me? And I guess I'm stubborn that way. I'd rather do it myself, So when I learnt about the options with IBA, and talked to the other people that were there wanting to build their business, I really reflected on, do I want to do that? And at that time too, there were a lot of changes coming through IBA, so I knew that the opportunities were going to change very soon with them. And I then decided that I had all the information I could get from them. I had done all the training that I could with them, and they couldn't help me further. My next step had to be my own. Yeah.
Nice. And have you got any tips or advice for these entrepreneurs coming up about bootstrapping?
Bootstrapping?
Oh, sorry. Like doing it off your own back.
Oh, okay.
So that's what it's called in the startup world, bootstrapping, because it's by the boots kind of thing. It's
That's an interesting metaphor. I guess I think it's all about surrounding yourself with the right people. Who are the people that are going to motivate you? Who are the people that are going to support you on your journey? And if you find yourself, I always think about, look at the people around you and the first five people that you're closest to, their combined income is the income that you are going to make. And, I didn't want that for myself, and I don't want that for anybody else, really. So how could I develop and grow what I do, and how can I do that on my own without any support if possible? So I guess I looked into crowdsourcing, I looked into anthropology funds, I looked into all those different options. But for me, I was positive that I was going to be able to create enough of an income that I could use that to put back into the business. That if people understood my journey and what I was trying to do and who I was trying to do it for, that it would be worthwhile and it would work out. Yeah, and it has.
That's awesome advice for the Indigipreneurs who are listening. Do you have any other advice you could offer them?
I think for me, the thing that keeps pushing me is, I wanted to prove my haters wrong. That I wanted to prove those people who were doubting me and what I was doing and why I was doing wrong. So, for me, the bigger outcome was worth it. Staying up till late and, travelling around the countryside at all hours and driving around Melbourne by myself, that was all worth it, because the greater outcome is what you can achieve, what you can give back. And for my business in particular, I'm impacting future generations. And for me, that's what it was about. that that the more you can work out what your niche is, the more you can work out how you can do that and create an income at the same time. That's really what it's about. And standing out from the crowd, that's really what business is about. Successful businesses is standing out from the crowd and being able to offer something that's priceless.
So what's been your biggest success in business so far? What's been the biggest contract that you won?
The largest contract I've had so far has been working with a huge chain of childcare centres in Brisbane. And it was a little odd how that contract came about, actually, because I did a workshop for a group of directors and teachers, and a year later one of those teachers contacted me and said she looks after this chain of childcare centres, so she wanted me to go to every single childcare centre and do a workshop with all of the children, all of the teachers, and speak at their conference this year. Yeah, so that was pretty big for me because I really felt that, this was going to be a step-by-step journey, going to every centre separately and chasing those contracts down myself. So when I won that, I was very, very happy and couldn't believe how much, she really valued the information that I shared and that I taught them, and she understood how important it was to pass on to those children and teachers. Yeah, so that was really amazing for me.
And how did you get your foot in the door? Did you just show up one day, or did you have a good portfolio?
I think for me, I've been working in childcare for about 20 years all over Australia, and we are a small network. We all know, someone within an organisation. And you know what, we're really in early childhood all over Australia. We're very practical, very, we are there for the children. We're not there for the money, So once I think that connection was formed and, people really understood, I understood where they were coming from. They understood where I was coming from with our journeys, that they wanted to learn more. They wanted to hear more. So every opportunity I could, and even now today, I jump in chat rooms and I jump on different websites to talk to them around, what else they can do for Aboriginal Torres Strait children families, and and how important it is, not just to have professional development, but to have the actual tools and resources and educational materials for those children and for those families, and to be inclusive of them, include those families in your journey, and really that's really the connection that we all have, and that they all want to do it because it's in our studies as well, and it's in our philosophy of working with children as well. Yeah, so I guess it's about speaking out, as well, not staying quiet when you're in those situations, and I really feel passionate about it. So every opportunity I can, I talk about it and share the opportunities available.
So you weren't an overnight success for picking up that contract?
No, definitely not. But I feel that every day there's a new opportunity around. So, being open to it and saying yes rather than no, or working out a way to work together, or talk about the options of how you can do it, rather than the negative. I think that's really what it's about, is that every opportunity is a new opportunity, and you can add value to that.
Yeah, and with that massive contract you won, did you have any doubts, to begin with, or were you just confident you were just going to win that and just get a lot of work from it?
I think that big contract really made me think about how I could do it. That there was no doubt, because that organisation wanted me straight away. They knew who I was. They knew what I could do. So it really made me feel empowered that there's more opportunity out there, and this is just the very first step of where I could go and how many children and families and teachers I could reach.
That concludes today's episode of Indigipreneur. If you would like to know more about Cecelia's inspirational work, go to her website at www.culturalinclusions.com.au or connect on Facebook at Cultural Inclusions. If you like this episode, please share it with friends or connect on social media at Indigipreneur, where you can find more episodes like this. Are you a young Indigipreneur? If yes, come along to our First Nations Youth Summit, which will be hosted in Brisbane on the 28th to 29th of June. It's an opportunity to connect with other First Nations youth, create new professional networks, and learn new skills you can take back to your community. For more information, please go to the website at firstnationsyouthsummit.com. This episode was brought to you by Vasudhara Foundation. The Vasudhara Foundation supports social entrepreneurs to build creative and innovative projects that deliver positive social impact. In addition to their philanthropic work, they manage private investment portfolio which generates the resources to fund these social projects they love to work on. Feel free to get in contact with them at contact@vasudhara.org or visit their website www.vasudhara.org. Today's episode has been hosted by myself, Dean Foley, and produced by Damien Rins.